Alright, so today we're going to rebuild a 2001 SOHC cylinder head without going to a machine shop. We're going to do everything ourselves with basic tools. We're going to lap some valves, give it a good clean, and resurface all of the gasket surfaces. But first, so the only real difference here between these 3rd gen SOHC heads and the 2nd gen and 1st gen SOHC heads are these silly little ports right here, and the exhaust ports being significantly smaller. Now, I've got a 2nd gen one, and that's what the exhaust side looks like on a 2nd gen head. And that's quite a bit different. However, that's pretty much the only difference. The rockers are the same, these are the same, the lifters are the same, I believe the valves are even the same length, and I'm sure that the springs as well are the same. I'm pretty sure even the cam profile is the same. So the only difference is they made the exhaust port smaller and ran the secondary air. These holes are for your secondary air pump, which runs for like the first 10 minutes after startup to reduce emissions, and then after that it doesn't. But once these get all clogged up, which they will, you will throw a code. I don't remember what the code number is, but it requires you to pull off your manifold and clean out those holes and decarbon the whole thing there, and then you'll go for a good long while without having that happen again, but it will happen. So I'm going to tear this apart so that we can rebuild it, and that should be a good time. Apparently 3rd gen valves are 20 thou-ish longer than 1st and 2nd gen rods, or 1st and 2nd gen valve. Alright, so we're going to clean up these valves here. This is the gross ass exhaust valve, and a much less gross intake valve. And we're going to polish these. This is a bit of an unconventional method, but I found it works, and it works quite well. So, the first thing we're going to do, I'm going to get that up in there. I got a drill here, and got a sanding drum on it. And I got a wide variety of different grits of sanding drum, and that's how we're going to start. Also, you're going to need a drill press, because it's a double drill job here. We're double drilling. I have mine set to its max speed. I believe it's like 3,100 RPM. A second ago that was carbon, now it's polished, and that took, I don't know, 7 minutes, 8 minutes. Now I left the valve seat dirty because that's going to get cleaned up when we lap the valves. So, no need to worry about that. It's not 100% perfect, but it's definitely good. So, let's quickly do up this intake valve. Alright, so now we can go back over to the head and start getting it all cleaned up and ready to lap some valves and clean out the rest of the parts that are over there and then put it back together. Alright, so now that we got our valves looking all awesome, let's clean up all this stuff. Alright, so after a few hours of soaking in the crud cutter and a little bit of scrubbing, mild amount of scrubbing with a brush, it's fairly clean. We'll get rid of that and everything else now anyway, but majority of the unit, especially the inside, is clean, and that makes me happy. So, now, let's address all of the major surfaces and get those all cleaned up. So, I got some 600 grit sandpaper wrapped around a brick of metal, basically, something with some weight. And a little bit of WD. And you can just hold the thing, just hold it square against the head, and just let the weight of the block do the work. Alright, so now I've got the surface, the face, the head mating surface all done, smooth, clean, polished. The head is clean. So we're good to go now. So now we're going to lap some valves. Basically anything for any hard material should work if you don't have actual valve lapping compound available, which I don't. I'm just using polish for stainless or hard metals. Your valves are hardened metal, so it's good to use. It works, no problem. So get your polish on there. Next you can. Slide it into its appropriate hole. It's in its hole. Grab your drill. Put your drill on the valve. Tighten the drill to the valve. I have to grab a little paper towel so that it doesn't burn my fingers when I'm pushing. And give her a spin. And just gently clap it into place. And then you can kind of hold, put a bit of pressure on it. Only spin one direction. Pick a direction and go that way. Just after that, it starts with that on the valve seat, and now I've got a good lot of it tore off of there, and we're just going to go until that's all one uniform looking thing. And with lapping, the best part about it is we're doing two surfaces at once with the two surfaces that need to mate together. So it didn't really matter that I didn't pay attention to which valve went where when I pulled the head apart, because I knew I was going to lap them into whatever spot they were going to end up in, and that's all that really matters, right? As long as they seal in the hole that they go in, or the hole that they are in, you're good to go. Yeah, see, there's a good seat. That's a nice seat, and that one's kind of dull and not nice looking. It's really hard to see, but it's the truth. These four aren't done, these two kind of are. Alright, so now we got our head clean, we got our springs and retainers clean, we got our valves polished and lapped, and we've got our valve stem seals. Now it's time to put some valve stem seals on, put some valves in, and put the springs on. And then we'll hydro test it to make sure that our lap job is actually going to work. Because it sure beats doing it now over putting the head on and then, you know, running the car to find out you have low compression. So, do some valve stem seals. Alright, so now the water really has nowhere to go put out the valves or out those. So we'll just slowly pull up our chambers. Alright, so now we leave that for about 12 to 24 hours, and we'll see if there's any water in any of our ports, intake or exhaust ports, and if there's water in any of the ports, you know which valve you have to relap. And if there's no water anywhere, or if you do lose water and it's out the spark plug hole, then you know that you didn't tighten your spark plug in tight enough. But yeah, so now we just leave it and see if it leaks, and if it doesn't leak, then we put it on the car. And if it does leak, then we relap valves until it doesn't leak. And that's pretty much the long and the short of it. Alright, so we have passed our hydro test. The water's still in there, and all of these are dry. So we're good. This can go on the car now. Yep. So all are dry, so I'll get you back up there and then you can watch me, and we'll put the cam in, we'll put the lifters in, we'll put the rockers and rocker arms back on, and then that head is pretty much reassembled and ready to drop back on the car. And there we go. One rebuilt SOHC, third gen SOHC cylinder head. All without going to a machine shop. Alright, so yeah, I guess that's it for the cylinder head rebuilding episode. We'll see you later.